it is scompy here. And it is 5 degrees outside. Yeah, that's great, huh? Yeah, it's very extreme cold today, and that's what I want to be talking about a little bit today, are extremes. So I am extremely freezing because I didn't hydrate enough before I came out here, and I can feel the difference. So I am wearing my jacket, of all things. I'm not in a t-shirt, because if I would have prepared a little better coming out here, forgot about it, then I might actually be okay. I actually might do some, like, I don't know, Bear Grylls running in place. Maybe some push-ups on the bridge just to get my internal body core up a little higher. That's what I think about sometimes, right? When you're out in a freezing environment where there's ice forming along the river. So, let's see. What other extremes have I done in my life? Wow. Where should I start? I would say 2002, I ran a marathon. I trained about 9 months for it. I started running about 3 miles a time around the Rose Bowl. It's exactly 3.1, so 6.2 miles twice around the Rose Bowl is a 10K. And I usually went around that thing like about midway into my training. I went around that thing 6 to 7 times, so it's about 18 to 21 miles. Depending on the day. I do that once per week and then get about another 20 miles of running in, you know, midweek, like once or twice. And even in that time, I do crazy stuff like I go to the gym and weightlift. Now, I started my marathon when I was about 260 pounds, yeah, I'd say about that. And at the end of my marathon, I went down to 215, actually 214 if I remember was the lowest weigh-in. And then literally 3 weeks after the marathon, I was back up to about 230 again, and then a year later I was back up to 250. So like all the training, all the benefits, everything I saw from the marathon training was kind of for nothing. I had a hurt hip at the end of it as well. Funny enough, it was on the right side where I carried my cell phone at the time. Again, this was like 2002, 2003, so there might have been some linkage there, which most likely was, but with all the wear and tear on my body with the marathon, I even was aware of myself at that time, knowing that I was taking my body too much to an extreme doing that. If I would have been more like 160 pounds like I have been like this past year, I don't think I would have had that kind of wear and tear on all my joints and stuff. So, but would I do a marathon today? I don't think so. I don't think there's benefit doing that compared to like some weight training, some like moderate weight training that I do like 2 or 3 times a week now, which costs me no money. I do it at home. I do some natural stuff. I do squats, push-ups. I have just some free weights, so I'll do some free weights to work out my chest and my shoulders, my arms. You know, just like all the normal, easy kind of stuff. Doesn't waste a lot of time. I like to do it outside when I can and under the sun. And I don't take my body, I don't need to put my body to an extreme to get my body nice and fit and lean and all that these days. Now, there's 2 larger tools in my toolbox besides the biggies, which are being out in the sun, hydrating really well, and the elimination and knowing what EMFs you're around. So let's say you've minimized your EMF, you know, you're grounding a lot, you're in the sun, you're hydrating, you're doing all the good things, and then you're looking for a better body shape, better tone, more energy, just all that. Well, my methodology beyond those things, which are huge, I don't want to dismiss them at all, would be to weave in, like this time of year, your ketosis with some intermittent fasting. Now, I have to be careful doing that, because let's say I decide to go out and do yard work I did this like several times last year. I did some yard work And I was outside for, instead of being out there for just an hour or two, I was out there for 3 or 4 or 5 hours. And I exhausted myself and didn't really prepare for it again. And then by the end of the day, let's say I wanted to do my intermittent fasting, and in my mind I might have thought, oh, I have to get my intermittent fasting in. You know, it's already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I need to stop my eating window. So then on days I would do that with my exercise, I would typically be at a potassium loss. And by maybe 9, 10 o'clock in the evening, I would feel like my second toe curl in a lot and my legs cramping up on me. And I was like, whoa, I must be having some reaction to maybe this fast. Is something wrong with the fast? Well, no, I wasn't actually providing enough potassium to my system based on what my body required needs were. And yeah, the fast was, you know, possibly draining more magnesium or potassium out of my system. And now knowing this, so if I work out, I will, let's say, not intermittent fast that day. Maybe I'll stop eating more like around 5 or 6 at night. If I went through a really heavy workout until my body adapts or acclimates to it. So similarly, let's say I know I'm not going to work out at all, and it's like a really good kind of like hibernation day, then I'll maybe end my day with some shrimp or some oysters and maybe a part of an avocado, which all have very high content of potassium, other sources to like get me through the next like 18 or 20 hours of my fast. So for that reason, that's why, like, in talking about this and knowing how my particular body works, I won't do a water fast. Like, I won't do a long water fast. If I do a water fast, yeah, sure, I could maybe push it up to 24, 26 hours and feel fine. Because, you know, I've done fasting for so many years, since about 2010. I'm pretty well adapted to knowing what the fast is going to feel like. I won't get lightheaded, bad things won't happen, unless I weave more stuff, more conditions come into that day that kind of screw up what the fast is intended to do, and maybe put more strain on the body in other ways, or put me into a deficiency I wasn't expecting. So that's what I've found in my own personal experience with the stuff I do. So yeah, occasionally, like maybe like 3 or 4 times a year, I might do a water fast and not put anything into my body for like 24 hours. And then most of the time of the year, I'll actually do intermittent fasting, especially during the summer when I do no ketosis at all. Or very, like, I'll just basically go to low carb rather than being ketotic. So this time of year when I'm ketotic, when I'm doing intermittent fasting, it's like kind of this synergistic double whammy of awesomeness to like shed the excess body fat if you're looking to do that, but you can take it too far. You can take it to an extreme. So I've had to be mindful about that. Like when I started doing intermittent fasting, this is 2010, I realized how powerful it was. And I also, by 2012, knew about ketosis. So I started weaving them together, and like magic, you know, I went from 245 pounds down to about 180 within a course of like, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. And then the year after that, I went from like 180 very slowly. It's like that last, you know, it's like that last 10 pounds always takes the longest kind of thing. Of the body fat, the excess body fat, which is actually usually not even body fat, it's just excess skin left over that's just pulling itself in, because it takes, you know, a longer time to get that skin to retract back. It does eventually, but you just have to give it time if you're in that, I don't know, if you're already like in that state of losing body fat and all that. But basically what I found is weaving in lots of tools in your toolbox at the same time can actually work too well in the sense where like it could have other ramifications you don't consider. So I always like to be mindful of, okay, if things are working in this regard, maybe they're not working in this other regard. Or maybe, you know, like you have bodybuilders, they'll be like, look at how strong and ultimately buff I look, but then they might be causing liver damage because of what they're taking in, or they're not seeing the whole picture typically. Like a lot of our pictures we see are just what we see on the outside, and the invisible, what we're not looking at, typically comes back to haunt us a long time down the road. That's exactly the analogy I consider with EMFs. It's like we don't see the damage, we really don't even feel the damage unless you're really in tune to it. So the invisible can suck, especially for science, because to measure it, unless you have the right tools, you don't know damage is taking place. So I like to caution on the side of, I don't know, a little more reality and thinking of the whole picture, and realizing that something that seems good in the short term might just be that. It's good, you see it good in the short term when long-term damage is happening. So I just like to throw the caution out there for myself, because I've been through a lot of this, like with marathons, with crazy eating things over the years, other established things that I've been trying, and then I see what works, I see what doesn't work. And at least in my particular world, I found them to just be tools. Like, view them as, you got a workshop, I have saws, I have drills, I have like all these things, and I'm trying to use them for certain purpose and function. But with any tool, you can use it to your advantage or disadvantage. And you know, you might drill, you know, something through a piece of board, and you get that hole there perfectly, but you realize you've drilled through the other side of the board and you've just ruined something on the other side. So I like to view them that way with all this stuff. Even, I mean, I'm gonna say it, even the sun. Like, you can take sun to an extreme. Like, you get out there, you don't know, let's say you don't know you're in a UVB 15 light, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go out today, and you know, I've acclimated already, I can usually get up to 30 minutes of sun. And then you go out there into really awesome sunlight. I just see this beautiful hawk flying overhead, so put that in the image here. I think it's, yeah, it's a hawk. So yeah, you could be in sunlight. You know, Alexander Wunsch videos, you can see him talk about this. You might be getting sun for 30 minutes, everything's great, and you don't realize you've got massive UVB going on that day, and normally you'd be out there for, you know, an hour, even 2 hours, and everything's great, but it happened to be a UVB 15 day versus a UVB 7 day. And then suddenly now you're burning, and you think, oh, well, I haven't been out here long enough yet. Well, listen to your body. If you start feeling too hot, like you're burning, be in tune with your body, because if you think that you're just having to do something to do it because you think it's correct, then that's, to me, that's like not pulling the whole like experiment together, like not making the connections enough, like not knowing where the extreme happens. And the big takeaway, I think, is like thinking from terms of not just tools but conditions. Like, conditions can change at a moment's notice. You know, a cloud can come in and you can go from UVB 10 to UVB 3. So, but do you know, like, even with EMFs, like, conditions change all the time. Like, a year ago, I realized they installed a small cell phone antenna at a location where I was at, and I started feeling a little worse all the time, not realizing it until I looked out across the way, brought in my meter, looked out across the way, saw that I was getting a lot more milliwatts per square meter of RF all the time. I'm like, where is this coming from? I haven't detected this before. And then I looked out straight parallel to me, a block away on a rooftop, was a cell antenna that had been recently installed. So the condition around me changed, my environment out from under me changed. So although I thought I was in a relatively safe environment, which I was, in the previous year, then the environment got worse around me without me even realizing it until I kind of connected the dots. So just wanted to throw that out there, because right now, even being out here, I don't know, for what, like 15-20 minutes, the conditions are changing around me all the time. Like, my hand holding the camera is freezing, so I've been switching back and forth just to keep my hands warm. Like I said, maybe I should do some Bear Grylls stuff here just to get warm, but yeah, it's like 6 degrees out. Should have hydrated more before coming out, and I will leave it at that, because I just wanted to, I don't know, get a different perspective on how we're viewing extremes. And you could do extremes in a lot of different ways and not even realize you're doing an extreme, because the conditions are changing all the time. All right, I'm ending it here. See you guys later.